Special thank you to Leon Edwards and his brother Fabian. I mean, after training, they'll spend an hour after they've also done the training just to help me out, and you know, that's priceless.
Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. I was looking at your Wikipedia page and it said that you turned pro when you're 16 years old. Is that true?
No. I don't
Okay,
know.
that's wrong.
Wikipedia is crazy. No, I didn't.
Yeah,
No,
so
I
how
didn't.
old were you?
Um I think I was 19 maybe, because
Mhm.
I was signed to the UFC when I was 20, and it was right before I turned 21. I think like 2 months before I turned 21. And then before the UFC, I had all my pro fights within the 6 months before I signed. So there wasn't a lot of time to learn and adapt in that,
Yeah,
in
on
that
the
time
job
frame.
training.
But exactly.
That's the harshest on the job training I've ever seen in my life.
I know.
um, so what do you remember from that experience though, the pro debut?
I don't know. I remember it being just a bit like, I remember being with Boris Mankowski. I was training in Poland at the time, and we decided to drive over. I remember being a bit sick before, and honestly, the smell of pickles. Because in Poland, like, the cure of everything is pickles and pickle juice. And I was having so much pickle juice before the fight that I was like, I swear I smell like pickle juice right now. But yeah, just going over I'd never been to a UFC event in my life. I didn't really know what I was walking into, if I'm being honest. Like, I saw the UFC, but it was never that I saw the UFC as something that I wanted to do, because there was no women at the time that I saw the UFC. I saw it when Dan was fighting, and like GSP and all that, uh and that was just something amazing. But I just knew that I love martial arts, and I love to compete in whatever. And I was doing the pro fights, but I didn't really think that I was going to get signed to the UFC that quickly. I knew that there might be an opportunity based on the cancellation of bouts and how difficult it is for women to get fights. Because even if you have one booked and then they cancel, to find one, a short notice replacement is a lot more difficult than it is for a man, just because of the amount of people training and available to fight. So it was a very short notice opportunity that I wasn't really prepped for. Um, but it's like, you got to the UFC, so so that in its own right was pretty awesome. And I just remember being there, and it being a very surreal experience, because I'd never experienced, first of all, getting paid for a fight. I think I got paid for just one fight before I fought in the UFC. It was all like, I was just doing it for free so I could, do it. And just being there and having like people interview me all the time, and the signing up posters, and the trying on clothes. It was all very surreal. um, and then as I was walking out, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have never ever even seen a venue like this in my life. I didn't go to like many concerts or anything. So the whole thing was just like, oh, look at this. Oh, this is kind of cool. Obviously the outcome wasn't that great after. But it was amazing. It's actually the first time I saw Dan Hardy, and I completely freaked out, which Boris remembers how I freaked out when I saw Dan, because he messaged me. I think it was like a few years ago. He was like, "Oh, I remember when you saw him. You were just like, it was horrible, man. You had no cool." So yeah, I mean, it was a bit bittersweet. Obviously, because I lost. Had I won, it would have been amazing. But but given the circumstances, I think I did pretty good. And yeah.
Your last fight, you returned after a long layoff. You had some issues, health issues. Were there any like correlation to like your UFC debut to coming back after such a long layoff? Did you feel any of the same emotions?
Um, uh, no, I felt like it was completely different. It was completely different because, one, I'm not 20-year-old that doesn't really have any experience or idea about the sport. She just has done a bunch of martial arts and decided, in the cage, I'll just figure out how to put it all together, which is not really a good approach to MMA. Um, but I didn't know better, and I didn't have a better opportunity at the time to do anything better than what I had with, the skills. So it felt different. Obviously, I was a bit nervous because it was a long time, so it was experiencing all of that. But I was confident in my preparation. I was confident in the people around me, and I was confident in my goal in the fight. So it wasn't like I had a whole bunch of time off. It was a bit like a debut, but it was nothing like my debut, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. Definitely makes sense. And how beneficial was it for you to go all 15 minutes in that fight after such a long layoff?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually really happy that the fight went 15 minutes. I know I know the ideal thing is like you go in there and you knock somebody out in like 30 seconds and you go celebrate and stuff, but for the longevity of me in the sport and me being confident being in the cage and also trying things that I have been working on that have just been theories until you actually get in there and do it. Versus a fully resisting person that's trained to fight you. So to be able to have those whole 15 minutes to to see what my energy management was like, to see what my cardio was like, to see how I managed different threats thrown at me in the fight, it gave me a lot of confidence to have done that. And if I could go back and it'd be like, oh, if you do this, you'll get first round knockout, I would still choose to have the 15 minutes.
Without a doubt. And, I saw you say that you wanted to return in July on the London card. That never happened. Any reasons why you weren't on that card?
Oh, I had an injury, so yeah, it was like I thought it was gonna heal really quickly, and then it ended up prolonging and prolonging, and then then I caught another one. So I ended up going to the July card, but I was doing interviews backstage, which it was pretty cool, and it was pretty different to just it's crazy how different it is when because it was the exact same hotel, right? It was the exact same hotel, exact same event. So I remember myself a few months before like walking to get a coffee and how that feels in your like it feels like all your emotions are just like all your hairs are just going and that time I didn't have any of it. And it was like boring. I was like, oh, I'm just getting a coffee. This is not anywhere near as crazy as it was back in March. And it gave me that excitement to be back in competition. So that was cool, and obviously to see to see Tom Aspinall win the fight, and to get to speak to so many athletes and how their process is and what they go about it, and walking by the locker rooms when you don't have this. I'm about to walk out to 20,000 people and get into a fist fight, and my career kind of depends on that outcome because win or lose is kind of the difference between how you're seen, how you can advance in your career, and a lot of things lie on that. So there's a lot of nerves in that moment, and to be able to see it from a different perspective, it's almost like an outer body experience in a way, but to other people. um and I feel like that was so beneficial for me as a fighter and as an athlete that I think it worked out okay.
You're one of the rare people that are able to experience that, right? Usually, most people that go into like commentating or media work, they're already retired or they're not fighting anymore. You're one of the rare people. Like DC did it, Dominic Cruz did it. You know what I mean? Like there's some few people out there, but yeah, I would never know what that felt like. You know what I mean? Because I've never fought the UFC, but it is what it is. UFC Austin, Jamey-Lyn Horth, undefeated
Mhm.
prospect, I guess. Can you be a prospect when you're 33 years old?
Well, I guess so, yes, because well, I mean, we see Glover Teixeira won the belt at 40 something.
Yeah, yeah,
You
true.
could always be a prospect.
I guess
She's
so.
undefeated in amateur, undefeated in
Mm.
pro, got the belt at LFA. She's an extremely hardworking fighter, very disciplined, very dedicated, and very dangerous. So, absolutely.
For sure. And outside of that, what else do you see in her style?
She's just a very complete fighter. She's very good at everything that she does, and she's very dedicated. And I feel like one of the most dangerous things about her is that she has a beautiful community around her. You know, she lives in Canada and in the Vancouver area, but it's in Squamish, and they all get together to help her. I remember when she fought, like the whole town stopped to watch her. And when you're fighting and you have that much support behind you, man, you could go through anything just for those people. And that is something that not a lot of people have the privilege, the honor to experience, because that is something very, very special, very unique. And that she has a such a dedicated group of people that, you know, like, give up their free time just to help her. And how do you not pour your heart out into a fight when you have that type of support? So that's something that I see that's very special, that she absolutely deserves. She's like a wonderful person. But it's dangerous.
Well, you got the same thing, right? At your situation in the UK, right? You got Great Britain top team. You also train at Renegade, it looks like, and then at
Hmm.
home you got the mastermind. There are master splitter, if you want to call him that. You know what I mean? Like doing
Yeah.
everything for you, right? So, are there any other spots that I'm forgetting that you train at?
Well, New York and Renzo, Gracie, just here and there, you know. Yeah. I'm actually going there on Monday, so I'm excited. I'm glad you caught me before I flew out. And also, did you know that Texas Commission, they don't care about your medicals done in any other country. It has to be in the US. So, yeah. So I'm having to go to the US early because of it, which I don't mind. I was going to do it anyway, but yeah. Yeah. I was also very surprised when they told me that. They were like, you know all the medicals that you've done and you paid for? Well, you're gonna have to do them again because Texas doesn't allow the ones that are non-US. And I'm like, okay,
Only Texas. Only Texas.
sweet.
You need to get a cowboy hat so you can blend in.
Nah, man, but I'm like, I'm super excited. And also, just to be fighting in the US, this is gonna be my first time fighting in the US. You know, I spent a lot of time in America from when I was 5, and well, I was undocumented. So when I remember when I left, it was I left with the dream and the hope that one day I would be able to come back and compete in the US. And I'm like, I'm leaving this country, and I love this country, but I'm leaving to be able to come back like correctly, as if you may say, to
Legally.
have, like, yeah, legally. I mean, I did get there legally. It was just in the process of renewing the paperwork that was, you know, with lawyers and everything. There was a mess up in one paper, and then the
Yeah.
situation, the like financially, we were you know, we're a family, and we just didn't have the opportunity to go back. So to be able to now go back doing the exact same thing that I have always loved, and that it kind of full circle worked out, is really special for me.
Going back to, your training in the UK, you got the top team and you got Renegade. Like, who are the people there? Like the girls, I guess, that are kind of giving you the best work for preparation.
Yeah, I mean, at Team Renegade, you have incredible coaches, and a special thank you to Leon Edwards and his brother Fabian. I mean, after training, they'll spend an hour after they've also done the training just to help me out, and you know, that's priceless to have that. I have Joby Clayton, who used to be Anthony Joshua's boxing coach, and he's one of the coaches over at Renegade that also spends so much time to help me out, and have Lexi Rook that I train with there at GB Top Team, Ash Grimshaw, Brad Pickett, and the girls there, which is Chanel Dyer, that she's fighting in Aries in December, which is cool because I'll be commentating on that. So it's like to have trained and then see her there, because she signed with the PFL, but she's going to be fighting that one off over there. Just to see that. Claire Lopez is, you know, invaluable to my training. You have Kate, you have Federico, which is she's kind of new to the team, and she's such such a good energy to have around you. Yeah, I mean, the team at GB Top Team just gets bigger and bigger when it comes to girls, and man, they are so consistent. You could see a guy show up Monday, Tuesday, maybe they don't come, but they are there every single session, and you can see it in the improvements, and you can see in their drive to train, and that, you know, that rubs off on everybody. So it's like, it's really special for me to be able to train with all these people that have helped me so much.
Renegade, you're a person that goes to Renegade and trains, right?
Yeah.
Ian Garry, the whole situation. I've seen some of the posts that you've been putting up. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the whole situation.
Man, you know, it's like, it's not my drama to be
Mm.
like putting out there and sharing, but he's the only person to have ever been kicked out of Renegade. I go to Renegade and there's like people from all over the country that come to train, that drive for hours and stuff, and like, you know, and every gym, that's why in the UK there's been so many that haven't allowed him to come, because there's just basic rules. Be respectful, show up on time, don't be spreading gossip about other people. Like, basic. Like, that's martial arts. And I wouldn't have said anything had it not annoyed me so much with how incredible Leon Edwards is, because you can't have a whole story that suits your narrative, like, oh, I came to Renegade and Leon Edward head kicked me and sent me to a hospital, and then try and say that he's insecure. Okay. All right, buddy. So it's a bit sad, because I don't think it's necessarily Ian himself. I think there's influences around him that you can see, and especially because, you know, I met him in Cage Warriors, when before the UFC, and I remember when he was fighting for the belt, and his original team said that he wasn't allowed to be in the team anymore. So it's like, it's ongoing, and at some point you kind of look, man, I have trained in like 100 gyms, never been kicked out. You know, people, it's not like before in the shoot the box days, that if you go to another gym, you're like, you know, we hate you and stuff like that. It's not like that anymore. People, you know, they're respectful to you going to training, but you also have to show that same respect in the gym. And if you're not going to have it, then you're not a good addition to a team.
Yeah,
And
behind the scenes,
I feel like
there has been
that's
many, many fighters that have been kicked out of gyms that people don't know the stories about. But since, you know, they are in the UFC and they're top 15 fighters, it gets publicized, and some, like you said, the narrative can be made by somebody, and then
mm.
the media will print it, right? Because it's gonna get clicks.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also that, it's like, it's not people going, wait a minute, let me think about it. Is this something that like makes sense for me to put? Do I have both sides of the story? Do I have the information to put this out there? It's like, oh no, this is gonna get this many likes, this many clicks. I'm gonna put it however this guy's telling me, although it's doesn't even seem logical or accurate. That's the part that I'm like, you know, like MMA media, like come on, man. Like, it I do better. Like, I know it's hard, because I know how much MMA media gets censored, and I know how much like you get seen depending on what you say, and if you fit the narrative that they want to be pushing. But, you know, integrity needs to be kept, especially, you know, and
It's
man, for somebody who's done so much for the UK, like Leon Edwards, like, come on, man, don't disrespect Leon.
yeah, he's a really
Yeah.
nice guy, man. Like, he's very soft spoken. Like, it's hard to think that, you know, yeah, it's hard to think that, but you know, like you
Man,
said,
for
there's a
him
lot
for
of
him
things
to
behind the
help
scenes.
me, and like, and it's not only me that he helps, it's everybody in the team. Like, he
Mhm.
runs some of the session, he will spend time in helping every single one. He doesn't think he's like above anybody because he's a UFC champion. He is the most dedicated person to the team. You know, you have like Tom Breeze and stuff there, and Tom Breeze is another one that's not going to put up with that. Like, he's not having it. And that's the thing. I remember the first time I went to Team Renegade, and it was Joby that, because it was a sparring day, so he said, you know, we need to help each other, we need to protect each other. And he said, you see on the wall, what's written is Team Renegade. It doesn't say just Renegade, it says team, because we're a team and we help each other. And how can you say something bad about somebody like that? Like, That's like going saying something bad about Wonder Boy. Like you're the problem.
For real, for real.
Yeah,
Um,
I should have like
now
kept my cool a bit more for this. It's
it
still a
is,
very touchy subject for me.
yeah. Well, you know, I'm pretty sure, you know, once they fight again, that's gonna come back up, right? Once Ian fights or Leon fights, it's gonna come back up. So we'll see what they say. Um, what do you envision for the fight? That's why we're here to talk. What do you think? What do you see?
um, I don't know, man. I just see a good scrap. I just think there's gonna be a good fight between us. You know, we like you said, now I didn't always have that, but now I do have that same support, and I know how powerful it is, and how much it gives you in the fight, and the fact that we both have that is pretty cool, and we're both representing people that we love, and we're both representing something that seems to be a bit bigger than ourselves. That it's not just an individual sport, so I just think it's going to be a great fight.
All right, one last thing I wanted to talk to you about is Daniel Cormier, right? He commentates for the UFC, and he revealed that he's been getting shit from his teammates for his commentary, saying it's biased against his own teammates. You break down fights with Dan Hardy. You commentate for Aries. Have you ever had issues with fighters for your analysis?
No, no, I haven't. I feel, yeah, I think I've spoken about this before. I don't feel like I'm biased, even if I know the person. Like I've commentated with people that I have trained with, and I feel like I I get a bit more biased when I see there's a bit of a skill that somebody has that they're not implementing. So I might be a bit harsher on them, or being like, okay, surely they're gonna pull it out of the bag soon. But that's more based on research that I have done, like extensive research that I have done, where I have seen these capabilities in athletes, in comparison to the way that they might be competing. And but other than that, I've never been told that, dude, you're biased, or why are you saying this if that's your friend? Because then I feel like I have to give these fighters the respect that they deserve, because they've both been in training, they've both trained hard and given so much of themselves for the sport. So it's, you know, the least I can do is just share that and be respectful to them and all the hard work that they put in.
December 2nd, you're back in action. UFC Fight Night, Austin, Texas. A great place to fight. You know what I mean? Austin is a great place. All the best to you, Veronica, and always great chatting with you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for, spending the time to speak to me, and every other fighter that you do. I do love your interviews.